So I just braved COVID pandemic life to go see Tenet. It's been 5, 6 months since I've seen a film in the theaters. The last movie I saw was Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and it came out around April, March. I was really excited to see this film, so I want to talk about Tenet today. So I'm going to talk about the movie overall, and then I'll get into specifics and spoilers. Christopher Nolan can really direct his ass off. I really enjoyed the action in this film. The first opening sequence when they're going to the opera, very enjoyable, very intense, very exciting, kind of brings you in. I think John David Washington was amazing as the protagonist, which I apparently have a problem with. I didn't realize until later when I was talking about the movie after I got home and processing it all. I kind of have a problem with him being called the protagonist. I don't really know what it is. Maybe because I've seen it like in other film analysis and like fiction analysis stuff so much that it seems like it's a story on like it's just huge. The whole film is so like it's almost convoluted. It's almost confusing. So is it the whole thing is this like clockwork, Rube Goldberg, Jenga set on top of like balanced on top of like a little like a cylinder on like a board. It's just really teetering the whole time, and I feel like there's needed to be a lot more substance to the characters and to at least some of the motivations behind it, because you have the wife character who is just really needs to be saved. So she's in a very damsel role, and she just needs to be saved by our protagonist. It even sounds weird saying our protagonist because that's what he decided to name him. Like he's so, I think he takes the whole action hero needs to be like a blank slate a little too far. Like he could have had a name. And the movie was such a serious tone that hearing I'm the protagonist of the story actually sounds kind of strange. So the action was great in this film. The story needed something more, a little heart to it, a little more humanity, a little more like to be invested. Because you spend so much time, it could have been deliberate because you spend so much time trying to understand just what the hell they're talking about. Because it introduces these new concepts. And essentially, I think it's pretty based in reality as far as like the physics-based theories that they explain in the film. And that's not necessarily like the hard part. The part is just really how fast they shoot them out like rapid fire. Like there's a lot of times in the film, and this could have been a sound design, could have been a sound mixing. This could have, a lot of it was what about free will? And then to the next scene, they just were speaking so fast sometimes, and they have accents, and it needed to slow down some of those times because it's so exposition heavy. There's so much talking going on in between these these set pieces, these huge action scenes where it's being played forwards and backwards. Without getting too much into detail. It felt odd. I spent more time kind of disengaging from more of the story and trying to figure out what the rules were, which I think everyone was trying to do since they saw the trailer. The first trailer is like, what are the rules here? Is someone controlling it? Is someone have this magnetic power? Is it science-based? Is it supernatural based? Probably knowing Christopher Nolan is more science-based. Overall, it was a mostly satisfying watch as far as the action sequences, and it was really cool. Like it was like the action and the time stuff was really fucking cool. Like it was really trippy to see these sequences just play out, and that was the most captivating, most engaging, most exciting part, and that keeps you there. But on the other hand, the story is lacking. Okay, now we get into spoilers. All right. But overall, I'll probably rate it like a 6 out of 10. It's probably gracious. Like it's because the story is just so lackluster. Spoiler warning, just so I get into it. So the reason I rate it so low because we have our main protagonist, this black guy. He is a good riff on the James Bond character, the world-traveled spy character who's used to wealth and carries himself like that. Bond also has a chip on his shoulder because he didn't kind of come from money. And I feel like this character kind of does that too, where this character has a disdain for like the proper and this surface world that we have, because he's essentially an action hero saving the world. So John Davidson character, our protagonist. It sounds so weird saying that. It sounds so weird to call him the protagonist because I forgot it. Not because I forgot his name, because that is his name. It just seems. So there's a scene where early on, our protagonist goes to meet Michael Caine. The host brings him to the table. our protagonist says, I'll have what he's having, I'll just have the appetizer as well. The host says, oh, let me get the waiter for you. And just with the most like disdain, most like like you saw it, not important, our protagonist just says, no, just tell the waiter. It's just you do the work. I don't want to like order again. I already know what I want. I told you, do the rest of it. And like sits down. The host walks off with attitude. Like Michael Caine and our protagonist talk. It sounds so weird saying the protagonist, and not because I forgot his name, but because that's his real name in the film. Like he couldn't be bothered. Almost, it's jarring. It's just not. Anyway, so when our protagonist leaves the table, the food is just kind of coming out. So the host is coming with the waiter, which I don't understand why the host came back. Don't you got something else to do? And then our protagonist just says, you know, can you box it up for me? The host is just like, no way. Like, how dare you? He's like, oh, well, and kind of just leaves it at that. And he has this very cool, calm, collected demeanor where nothing bothers him. Like there's no, like even in the action sequences, he still is very calm and like focused. And like, you know he's going to get it done. There's never any doubt. Now, it's debatable whether that's good or not, to really have your character be perfect, essentially, and no character flaws and nothing to overcome. But that's kind of what this movie is, really, is these huge concepts, this huge movie, these huge theories carried along by these one-dimensional characters. Our protagonist is heroic and wants to save the villain's wife and her son at all costs. He did with no investment, really, no connection between them. He just really has to save her, spends the whole movie saving her, damn near like dies trying to save her. We don't really know why. It was also really upsetting. If you care about this stuff, maybe you do, maybe you don't, I don't know. Like she was just this really helpless white woman, this scared, tall, frail, like really skinny white woman. And it just kind of hits you differently. It's like, why is he going so hard? And it's like 2020, like kind of, that's such an old, I guess the word is outdated notion that, first of all, the woman just can be so helpless, and second, that this white woman is so helpless that she needs to be saved. Maybe that he's trying to say something else, but probably not, because no other character has anything else, any other depth. No character in the film has any real substance. I'll talk about the villain for a perfect example. The villain is just a fucking asshole. The villain is just villainous. Like there's a scene where he like wraps up his belt and puts his, okay. So the wife tries to kill him one time, pushing him off a boat. So to punish her, the villain that comes into her room, takes off his cufflinks and puts them down very calmly. The camera takes his belt off, which I thought of earlier when our protagonist was talking to him and he went to go like to bed or whatever, go change. The doors are closing and you see the villain pick up his belt. I was thinking he was gonna go straight in there and start whooping her already, but it was just like him putting it on to like take off premeditated like violence, this premeditated domestic abuse. So he goes into the room, takes off the cufflinks, takes his belt off slowly, puts the cufflinks into the end little holes of the belt, and my hair on the back of my neck just went up. It was overly effective. It's showing how much the villain he is, what he's willing to go do. They really did a good job with restraint, not showing the actual physical abuse. They just really hinted at it and had him just this close-up shot of him towering over the camera and like the wife. And the wife is just like has her eyes closed, like in the bed, just like, and it's such a vulnerable position and just so scared. He doesn't do anything because he's like the protagonist or whatever happens. The protagonist shit is so insane. I'm just gonna call him John. I'm just gonna call him his actual name because Christopher Nolan don't care. I don't care. It was moments like that where he was just so villainous. And he's like screaming at her. He's like growling. He's like, if I can't have you, no one will. It's like, why? We don't know. This movie has so much, it expects so much more of you when you're trying to understand physics that you never heard of, like temporal physics, like the temporal pincer, like when people moving through backwards and forwards through time and linking up events. Like they give you clues when things happen in the beginning is when we understand it at the end, and vice versa. We're expected to understand so much from the world that we were given from the world, but they don't give us anything in the way of the characters. They don't give us any depth, any nuance. There's no offhand comments about what he did, what he had to go through, or why. Like we see the villain just kill the whoever he's working with just for the first capsule, the first part of the algorithm. That's it. He's just like he's the villain because he's supposed to be the villain. That's like some of the worst like superhero movies where it's just the villain is just the villain because he's the villain. It's not like Killmonger, where it's hard to argue if he's doing the right thing or not. You know, some people would be like, yeah, I think we should use violence to take over what was taking us from violence. Like, why should we like why should we have to be better if they continue to use these same tactics? Anyway, so that's the whole film essentially, is this big thing. It's like my 7-year-old niece, who weighs less than 100 pounds, trying to carry like the family on her shoulder. Like, we just like, it just shakes. It's like not gonna happen. It's like, so I'm gonna go through like some bits of stuff in the movie that I want to like talk about, because it's the memorable moments in the movie. Opening aqua scene, the heist or whatever. Also, the movie is a bunch of heists essentially. It's a heist movie. Christopher Nolan really does well with that heist movie. Get the team together. We're gonna show you what we're gonna do. What's the plan? We're gonna execute the plan, and we're gonna see how it goes wrong, how it happens, and how you take something from planning to action. First time we see our protagonist, John, you see like the guys are like, Russians are like, wake up the Americans, and you see him like half sleep and like cock the bullet out of the gun, out of the chamber, and like catch it in the air to kind of show. I think it was a cool character moment to see him kind of like over it, like he's half asleep but he's still ready to go. Wake up the Americans. I'm already woke. I'm just like getting my rest before we go into this mission and whatever. So it showed that he was like capable. He can carry himself well. Let's see. They going through like the gas, and that whole scene was great. The torture scene was interesting because they you don't usually torture scenes outside. They were in the train track, so it was like a lot of noise. They couldn't really hear it. They didn't show any of the gore, any of the like the actual stuff, but it had the effect because you could kind of hear him screaming in the background, but it was the screaming of the trains, squeak the brakes and stuff, and you kind of see in the background like this. There's so much more you can do without just showing like hostile levels torture porn stuff, like Saw stuff where he's almost cutting off a limb. You can get that energy without having to show someone getting that, like a woman getting their ass beat with a belt on film. I want to talk about the damsel in distress problem with the film. It was distracting, and it just kind of got in the way of it. Like, that was the basic they could do, at least they could do without, and have like a character in the film, is have this woman, and she been damsel. There's even a time like when they literally, where John goes to meet her, and she's literally just like she's literally in like a high tower, like she's literally in the breeze amongst a bunch of statues. Yo, she was like in a row, a bunch of statues, and that's what she maybe it's smarter than I give her credit for, because that was a cool shot to have her just like a set piece, like not even a person, just really like a piece in this other row of models of, let's say, what is like statues of like women, white statues, it's like porcelain statues, whatever, marble, whatever's up, but they look pale and white. She's in like a pale white dress, and she's white, she's blonde, and she's tall, and this archetype of beauty, and she's amongst these things. It's just really, she looks very frail. She is frail. She doesn't really get stronger until the end of the movie, which saves it a little bit. By then you're just like, I don't care anymore, because she's been like so helpless the whole time. Like, there's a scene where they literally carry her on the stretcher through the action scenes. It's just, you know what I mean? It's just this it's pointless character. Talk about the kitchen fight. So when John is about to get jumped by those goons, and he's like, he's in the kitchen, he goes, I ordered my hot sauce an hour ago. That shit killed me, yo. For him, I think I really liked this character. Actually, if nothing else, I liked, or John David Washington's portrayal of this character, because he was given nothing, he amped it up to a 1. I don't like, whatever he did, he divided by 0. I don't know, like he multiplied by 0 and didn't get 0. I don't know. It's impressive. So, and he had this swagger behind the entire film, like he's so confident, ready, and just like, but that scene in the kitchen fight showed his ruthlessness and his determination to kind of push through any obstacles in his way, and his timing ready for it. He's willing to put his hand on the table like he was weak, and waited to the last second, pull away himself out of danger, and also injure someone, and then do like a 3-piece combo on these 3 guys and get them all separated. He punched one guy damn near through a wall, and he punched him and he was moving already. Like when he was punching this guy against the wall, he was ready on the next step. He was ready on the moving through. You see him like break the plates and just like swing the plates. Like, he's so ferocious, but not like he's not stressed about it. It's not rage. He's just like this. Maybe it is rage. It's just like cold calculated violence. It's kind of like Azula in Avatar. She's like, her violence isn't with emotion. Like, it's like strategic. It's violent because this is the best way to take this person down quickly and safely for me to get out of here. So using whatever it was around him to like use to get rid of him. Like, he beat a dude with he was a cheese grater. And so when he caught him in the backhand, he was fucking his hand up and he took it across his face and raked across his face and he threw his head into like this corner, you know? And that was just like so violent. That was like whoa. It didn't so many close-ups, but you you can hear it a little bit and you saw some of it and it's like, he really is like, this dude's really violent. It's really, yeah. Right. I thought the reverse bungee when they jumped into the building, and the trailer looks like they're doing like the time travel invertment thing. They're not. They're like reverse bungeeing up a building, which I didn't know was possible, but apparently it is. I'm talking about how fast they were talking. Everything was just like, brrr. They were rapid fire. So much to say, and you're processing what this guy said. And then someone says something and you miss a line and the other person starts talking again. So you're trying to process that and miss that. And then the person says something else again, trying to process that. It just keeps like that. And so you kind of, it's like coming in on Algebra 2 in the middle of a semester when you're still like on arithmetic, like whatever we took before algebra. And you're trying to catch up. You can kind of understand where they're going a bit, but you can't pass a test on it. Like if you talk, like you can fake it in class and ask, okay. But if I quizzed you on it, you would fail. Heist, the Freeport heist was dope. They drove that real plane into that real fucking hangar. You can't crash planes in the buildings in America. You can't crash them on film anymore. Like no one wants that. Like America will never forget about the greatest tragedy that ever happened. Not according to me, but according to America. The greatest tragedy that ever happened was 9/11, and they would never let us forget that. And especially it came out around the time of September 11th, even though it was supposed to, but it's like, so it was an interesting situation. So they crashed this plane into the building at really low speed. Everybody's safe. The protagonist is like really adamant about keeping everybody safe, make sure no one's hurt, because he's the protagonist. Yes, he's the most good. And I was just like cringing my teeth. Like I was just at my shoulders and my neck because the cars were like being pushed. The parked cars were being pushed. They were just like, ooh, that's a real plane pushing through street, like those light posts. There's a lot of practical effects in this movie. I didn't see too much CG. The antagonist intro. So when we see, he's essentially the antagonist. So when we see the protagonist going through the story from the end, because the whole film itself is a temporal pincer. Like the characters at the end of the movie are moving back in time to get to the beginning, while the movie's characters in the beginning are moving forward through time to get to the end. You don't really get the whole picture until the end of the movie. But I figured that our protagonist was fighting himself because the fight was, like, it didn't end quickly. And there was a lot of things that he was doing that fit his character. It was like jumping off the walls and the body slams and like how he was punching, he was like catching his punches and how he was able to stand his ground with someone who was like so skilled. And to that point in the film, we had seen no one able to stop him. I thought it was him on the other side of the time loop. I got half of that right because I thought the other one I thought they went back as a duo, and once Neil realized that he took the mask off and saw himself, the other one had to be John. He ran back to make sure he didn't shoot him. We find out later that they can exist on these two sides with, like, after going through the inverter, because you can see yourself going in. No, you see yourself going out as you go in. You understand? So if I'm going in, I'm seeing myself going in backwards. You know, and then when I come out, I see myself leaving out backwards, like through the. So it's like, it made sense once we understood that later. We saw it again. The fight was really cool. Later when we saw it coming back, other side of the fight, even cooler because you saw it but from a different perspective. That was cool to see the chase scene in the highway from a different perspective from both sides. The concepts in the movie was fantastic. Like the action, the time inversion, it's amazing. Like it's thrilling to see that on film. The villain's death was very gratifying. So I didn't necessarily hate him other than what he wasn't a complex, but he was such a fucking prick. And he spit on his wife, like kicking her to the ground, and he was gonna beat her with that belt, and just like how it built. He was there's no redeeming qualities. It felt good to watch this person get pushed off a boat and his neck like get snapped like some dummy. Like again, Nolan with the practical effects, like maybe like a little CG in there. I don't know if it's a dummy or not, but it looked so real and it was so effective to see him fall off a boat and bounce off the railings. The damsel actually saves herself in the end, which is great because that's all she did. It was worth it. It was funny that she's like, she saw in the first way time through, she saw someone jumping off the boat. She's like, well, she's just so free, whatever. But that's already her. It's an interesting concept. Like those things are cool. It's things that we could talk about, but it's hard to care about that when the characters have nothing to them, and I just don't care about the characters. There's a lot of problems with the sound. I think the mixing was what really contributed to not understanding what they were saying, and then thus adding to the confusion of dealing with these already like high concept theories, these intense physics based theories, time and entropy and thermodynamics and how that works and what the rules are, and you're trying to grasp from that, and every other sentence sometimes, like one in every key scene, is just nonsense, and you're just like, what are you saying? Why are you speaking so fast? Like if you're gonna speak fast, you all have to enunciate and make sure the audience can hear what you're saying. It's 101. So the theater had it turned up really loud to the point where I don't mind loud things at all, but it was really loud. You know what I mean? My partner, like she was there with me, and she had to cover her ears because it was so loud. Like it was really loud, and I still can't understand what they were saying. I have written here, what is character development? Because it's like the characters didn't change except for the wife character. Like she became a little stronger at the end, because before she was just so terrified and like shaking and crying all the time, to the point where she killed her husband, the villain, and pushed him head first off a boat, and then they drug his body away. I was like, other than that, nobody changed at all. Overall, okay, I enjoyed it. It's a very enjoyable film. I was confused a lot, but I was able to just kind of take pieces that I understood and put them into a mental chalkboard or put a pin in it until I got more of the information, because I was trying to figure out what was going on before it happened, because maybe I'm not that smart. I don't know. It just wasn't looking into the end. You're like, oh, okay. So you understand how the physics work, like, and totally. I wish I could have seen something going on from the future, because I don't really understand why they wanted to destroy time itself. Maybe they thought they could destroy the past timeline and get a new fresh timeline, but it doesn't make sense because then you exist too. I don't really understand why the future was going, like what the plan was for the future, to like get rid of the past but save the future. I don't understand. Why would you, if you destroy the past, don't you destroy the future because you're in it? Don't you? Like, you know what I mean? I guess we know time travel from movies, so, and it's not real, like, but the time travel isn't real either in that sense. I know like smaller particles can move through time and exist in two places at once, but how does that translate into us? You know what I mean? Because we're made up of a bunch of those smaller pieces. So how does that translate? What if I destroy something in the past, doesn't destroy something in the future, right? But the future already happened. If you destroy the past, isn't that future like no longer that future? Isn't that how split time rules, like split timelines work? Isn't that just like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I would like to discuss those things about the movie, but I guess you don't have to hand feed the audience that. It was unbalanced. The film was very unbalanced. They expect so much of us as physicists, but not as moviegoers. It's just a strange film, unbalanced film. The action pretty much, for me, saved it. John David Washington saved it for me. I enjoyed watching him do his thing. He's great in it. Like, more roles for him, please. Direction, cinematography, the lighting were incredible. Action sequences, set pieces, all the practical effects with minimal visual effects. Great. I loved it. For me, it saved the film from its own clunky self. Like, it's clunky. It's clunky. It's not like Inception, where Inception's a little more, it's simpler than this, I guess, like looking back versus like the dreams in this. Even Interstellar, you know, Interstellar had so much emotion in it. Like, those movies had so much emotion. It was about, you know, Cobb wanted to get his kids back. We felt that. We all felt when the kids turn around and you see. First of all, I remember the kids being really ugly. I thought, sorry. When he turned around, I remember the kids being like, I was like, oh, those are your kids, yikes. But it was there's emotion there. Interstellar, like the most emotional like scene in movies in like for the last decade or so was in that movie. You know, like, it was. I think it had a lot to do with his brother Jonathan not being on here, writing it with him. But when what's his name, Matthew McConaughey's character comes off of the water planet, and like it's been like 30 something years, and his daughter's old and watching those phone calls, and he's just like, sobbing. That's sad. That's you feel that. There's not a drop of that in this film. There's not a drop of emotion in this film. Besides, like, oh my God, he's gonna beat her like that. He's punched her in the stomach. That's like a reaction to that, but it's no like emotional investment at all in this film. So it really tainted the whole thing. Anyway, that's my take on Tenet, but it's definitely worth a watch though. Like it's definitely worth the watch. You know, I would recommend it with lower expectations. Just come for the action and the beauty of the film and the way Christopher Nolan directs action and his physics-based concepts or whatever. Peace.